prostitutes enter a room, agree a price, and have sex, has either committed a crime? Common sense suggests not. Sex is not illegal in itself, and the fact that money has changed hands does not turn a private act into a social menace. With both parties concerned, it is hard to see how either is a victim. But prostitution has rarely been treated as just another transaction or even as run-of-the-mill crime. The oldest profession is also the oldest pretext for outrage, moralizing, and unrealistic law-making devised by men. In recent years, government has tended to bother with prostitutes only when it threatens public order. Many countries have well-worn poor against touring on street corners, against the more bizarre type of brothel, and against the pimping. There has never been idea, partly because sellers of sex feel the force of the law more strongly than do buyers, partly because anti-soliciting status creates reserve incentives. On some occasions, magistrates who have fined street workers have been asked to wait a few days so that necessary money can be earned. So there's a prenatal discussion of reforming prostitution laws. During the 1990s, the talk was all of liberalization. Now the wind is blowing the other way. In 1999, Sweden criminalized the buying of sex. France, the crackdown on soliciting and outlawed commercial sex with vulnerable women, and categories that include pregnant women. Britain began to enforce new laws against curb calling earlier this year and is now considering more restrictive legislation. Outside the few pragmatic enclaves, attitudes are hardening. Whereas 10 years ago the discussion was mostly about how to manage prostitution and make it less harmful, the aim now is to find ways to stamp it out. The president has the whip hard on because they can prove that tough laws will make life better for women, because they have convinced governments that prostitution is intolerable by its very nature. What has gripped of the balance is the globalization of the sex business. It's not surprising that many of the rich world prostitutes are foreigners. Immigrants have a particularly harder time finding jobs that pay well. Local language skills are not prized in the sex trade. Prostitutes often prefer work outside their hometown. The free movement of labor is as controversial in the sex trade in any other business. Wherever they work, foreign prostitutes are accused of driving down prices, pulling extra service, and consorting with organized criminal pimps who are often foreigners too. The fact that a very small portion of women are trafficked, forced into prostitution against their will, has been used to discredit all foreigners in the trade, and by extension, all prostitutes. Abolitionists make three arguments. From the right comes they argue that the sex trade is plain wrong, and that by condemning it, society demeans itself. Liberals who believe that what consenting adults do in private is their own business reject that lie. From the left comes the argument that all prostitutes are victims. Its proponents cite studies that show high rates of sexual abuse and drug take among employees, which there are two answers. First, those studies are biased. They tend to be carried out by staff at drop-out centers and by police, who tend to see the most troubled street workers, taking their silence as representative of all prostitutes is like assessing the state of marriage by standing shelters for battered women. Second, the association between prostitution and drug addiction does not mean one causes the other. Drug addicts, like others, may go into prostitution just because it is a good way of making a decent living if you can't think too clearly. Which brings us back to the decreased transaction between two people in private. If not evidence there harm others, the state should let them go on with it. People should be allowed to buy and sell whatever they like, including their own bodies. Prostitution may be grubby business, but it's not the government's.